Have you ever felt that someone would be with you for a very long time? Have you ever believed that this bond was so strong that you didn't need to worry about disappointment? Have you ever thought that they were here and wouldn't go anywhere? But then one day, he left. Some leave with a farewell, others leave without saying a word. And some people pass away while still breathing, right in front of us. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. What remains in its original we suffer because we forget that even this body isn't truly ours. The Buddha taught that what we think belongs to us is actually only temporarily residing with us. Parents are only with us for a certain period of our lives. A partner stays with us as long as circumstances permit. Friends stand by us as long as we walk the same path in life. Nobody is wrong. No bad itch. It is the nature of the world that everything must change. But the problem is that we often blame ourselves or the other party instead of understanding the impermanent nature of things. What if someone disappeared from your life today? It doesn't mean we failed, it doesn't mean we weren't good enough, and it doesn't mean he was never sincere. No matter how many times we experience loss, the one who remains with us in every breath we take is our own heart. But the problem is, we never really take care of our own mental health. We end up entrusting our hearts to others. I entrust my words to his expectations, to the hope that he won't go anywhere. The Buddha taught that an untrained mind brings suffering to itself because a mind that does not know the Dharma clings, attaches itself, and fears, and when what it clings to changes or disappears, the mind shatters. Many people think that if someone is by their side, they won't suffer, but the truth is, even with people all over the house, if your heart doesn't know how to act, you will still suffer. Conversely, some people live alone but remain calm, light, and stable because they don't let their hearts depend on the presence or absence of anyone. The Buddha said that one should rely on oneself, not because the world is cruel, but because no one can be there for us forever. When we train our minds to understand the Dharma, we begin to see the truth of life more clearly. It seems that people come for a reason and people leave for a reason. Nothing happens by chance. A wise heart won't blame anyone when abandoned, won't hate itself when a relationship ends, but will gently ask itself, what lesson has this taught me? And each time such a question is asked, wisdom gradually grows. Instead of the pain becoming deeply ingrained, it turns into understanding. The Buddha compared life to a long journey. People get on and off the bus as they please. If we become attached to everyone who shares the journey, we will feel pain every time they get off. But if we understand that their role is only for this short period, our hearts will find miraculous peace. Understanding the Dhamma is not about letting go of love, but it is about loving consciously, knowing that love and attachment are possible, but not forgetting that everything is impermanent. When our hearts understand the Dharma, we won't beg anyone to stay, we won't cling to anyone with tears, and we won't sacrifice our dignity by being abandoned, because we understand that the person who stays with us forever isn't someone else, but the heart that doesn't abandon itself. If we can take care of our own hearts, even if the world becomes empty one day, our hearts are not broken yet, we can still stand calmly. And this is why the Buddha taught us to turn inward and examine our minds. Train your mind and understand your own, rather than chasing after someone. But training the mind to understand the Dharma doesn't happen simply by listening. It must begin with seeing the truth without avoiding it. The third point, pain is not the enemy, but a teacher for the mind. Have you ever? I've tried to run away from the pain, told myself not to think about it, forced a smile while crying inside, hoping that one day the suffering would disappear. But the more I tried to escape the pain, the more it followed me. The more I pushed it away, the deeper it became ingrained in my heart. The Buddha taught that suffering is the first and fundamental reality of life. No one can escape, regardless of whether they are rich or poor, good or bad. But the difference is with each person. Some people use suffering as a graveyard, while others use suffering as a stepping stone to wisdom. Pain isn't there to destroy us. But I came to tell you something. If we are quiet enough, we can hear it. Often, pain teaches us that we cling too much. We expected too much. Or perhaps we tie our self-worth too closely to someone else. But instead of listening, we quickly dodged it, finding it amusing, by finding a replacement, or by constantly blaming oneself. The Buddha said, suffering has a cause and suffering can be extinguished. But to extinguish the problem, we must first recognize the cause, not run away from it. When the courageous heart stops moving, dare to acknowledge the pain without judgment or blame. Don't rush it to heal. My heart will start to change. From a heart of resistance to a heart of understanding. From a weak heart to a gentle heart. Pain, therefore, is not something to be feared. The scary thing is not learning anything from it. Some people experience the same pain over and over again. It's not because of bad luck, but because they haven't understood the previous lesson. When the relationship ends, Dharma doesn't teach us to ask why they treat us this way. But it teaches you to ask questions. What are we clinging to that hurts so much? When asked this question, the answer might bring tears to our eyes. But those were tears that cleanse the heart. It's not tears that break the heart. The Buddha compared suffering to bitter medicine. The taste may not be appealing, but it can actually cure diseases. If we refuse to swallow the bitter medicine, we will continue to be sick. But if we dare to accept it, even though it hurt for a while, your mind will gradually become stronger. A heart that has consciously experienced pain will no longer fear loss. Because they know that even if they get hurt, they won't die. Even though I'm heartbroken, my heart still remains. And when the mind understands this, suffering will not be the enemy. But it became a teacher that taught us about impermanence, uncertainty, and the realities of life. But there's something even deeper. The reason why we keep getting hurt even though we know the Dhamma, specifically point number 4, the root cause of suffering. The thought of ourselves as existing. Have you ever? I've been hurt so much that I ask myself why I was suffering so much when he was no longer there. I tried to understand Dhamma, but my heart still ached the same way. The Buddha pointed out directly that the root of all suffering is attachment or clinging to the belief that this is me, this is mine, he must be mine. When there is too much me, the suffering becomes heavier. We hurt because we think he hurt us. We get angry because we think he doesn't value us. We're sad because we think we've been abandoned. But if we look deeper, we'll find that what's really affected isn't our heart, but our image of ourselves in our minds, the image of wanting him to love us, the image of wanting him to choose us, the image of wanting to have meaning in someone's life. The Buddha taught about anatta, that there is truly no permanent self to cling to. Feelings come and go, thoughts arise and cease, even emotions. Pain doesn't last forever. But because we mistakenly identify with those feelings every time they change, we feel like we're being torn apart. Notice how when we say we're hurting or sad, if we say that pain or sadness is actually happening, our hearts immediately feel lighter. This is not self-deception, but rather seeing the reality as pointed out by the Buddha. When we don't take everything as our own, the mind won't be dragged along by emotions like before. Letting go doesn't mean we don't feel anything, but it means we're not drowning in those feelings. Those who understand can cry and be sad, but they don't use tears to create stories that hurt themselves. The Buddha said that what isn't ours shouldn't be clung to. Yet we often cling to even suffering, sadness, and the role of being abandoned, using it to define our lives. The more we cling, the more we hurt, the more we protect, the more we suffer. The suffering intensifies if we dare to step back and observe. We will see that suffering arises, exists, and ceases without our intervention. When the mind begins to understand this, anger will lessen, sadness will not become deeply ingrained, and the fear of loss will gradually subside. This is true freedom, not freedom from others, but freedom from constantly dividing ourselves within others. But understanding the ego isn't the end, because there's one thing most people misunderstand. Letting go doesn't mean not loving or being attached. Point number 5. Letting go doesn't mean not loving. Have you ever experienced this? I've heard the phrase letting go, and it feels like it means having to cut ties, becoming cold, and no longer feeling anything. Many people are afraid of Dharma, because they thought that once they understood and did it, they would become someone who didn't love anyone, wasn't attached, and wasn't warm like before. But the Buddha never taught us to be heartless. He taught us to have hearts that are not hurt by love. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning love, but it is about letting go of the attachment that is hidden in love. We often love with conditions. Love arises from a desire for reciprocation, from a wish to keep them, from a fear of loss. This isn't love, it's fear disguised as love. The Buddha taught about loving kindness, which is a pure form of love. Love without possessiveness, wishing others happiness, even though he's not with us anymore. When you love with compassion, your heart will not demand, force, or use love as a bondage. We still care, we are still concerned, we are still sincere. But we don't let our hearts be tied to the outcome. Those who can let go are not those who love less, but those who know how to love. He won't ask, if you really love me. You must. He won't bargain for love with tears or pity, because he understood that no one is obligated to be with us to fill the void in our hearts. Letting go makes love lighter, not fading, but rather clearer. We will see the other person as a human being. Possessions are not our value. The Buddha said that love tainted with attachment brings suffering. But love with mindfulness, it will become a beautiful force even on the day we part. Many people think that if they let go, the other person won't appreciate them and won't stay. But the truth is, those who stay because they are being held on to never stay because they are truly devoted, while those who stay because they want to, without being bound, won't leave easily. When we don't cling, we won't be afraid, and when we're not afraid, we won't destroy love with suspicion. This is the kind of love taught in Buddhism: mindful love, compassionate love, and love without harming oneself. Even if one day the people we love leave us, our hearts can still be at peace because we know we have loved to the best of our ability without going against the natural order of life. But the important question is, if we let go, will our minds be empty? 6th, a mind that is at peace is not empty but full of wisdom. Have you ever been afraid that if you let go of everything, what would you have left in life? Wouldn't my heart be too lonely if I didn't hold on to anyone? The inability to let go is not due to a lack of understanding of Dharma, but because of a fear of emptiness, a fear of silence, and a fear of being alone. But the Buddha taught that emptiness is not nothingness. If it's an area where wisdom can arise, a world teeming with attachments leaves no room for peace. It cannot accept any more water. When your mind begins to relax, your distractions will gradually lessen. The thoughts that were once racing will begin to slow down, and in that silence, wisdom will begin to work. A heart that is at peace doesn't mean one feels nothing, but it means not being swayed by emotions. We still feel it, we still feel the tears, but our hearts are not broken like before. The Buddha said that a well-trained mind brings happiness. This happiness is not from possessions, but from not having to carry burdens. When we don't carry expectations, we don't carry the fear of loss, and we don't carry the illusion of perfection. Your heart will feel lighter than ever before. Many people mistakenly believe that letting go means ignoring the world, but in reality, those who can let go see the world more clearly. He sees everything as it truly is, without embellishment, without deceiving himself, and without going against cause and effect. A mind that is at peace will not struggle to make others understand. It doesn't require anyone to stay or compromise their self-worth to maintain the relationship. Because he understood that peace does not come from being loved, but from not forgetting oneself. In the emptiness of the mind, we will begin to hear the real voice. The voice was neither shouting nor rushing, but a gentle reminder that it was time to rest. We will begin to see the small beauties that we once overlooked, the breath, the sunlight, the silence, the simplicity of life. This is a gift that letting go bestows without costing anything. The Buddha taught that nirvana is peace and tranquility, not a place, but a state of mind free from the fire of desire. Even if we haven't yet reached nirvana, each time the mind lets go, that is another step closer to peace. And when the mind is peaceful, we begin to see deeper truths about life and destiny. Point 7. Parting is a teacher that awakens the heart. Have you ever felt like the whole world stopped spinning the day someone walked out of your life? Have you ever thought that everything would be better if they hadn't left? And have you ever repeatedly asked yourself why it had to be you who experienced this? Parting, whether in life or death, never asks if anyone's heart is ready. It came quietly, but it shook the deepest part of my heart. The Buddha taught that the things we love most are often the ones that teach us the Dharma most deeply. Because when we lose something, the house of negligence will be opened. We begin to see the realities of life more clearly without being taught before we part ways. We often live as if we have unlimited time. I think we should talk about it later. I'll forgive you later. But when parting comes, the word later loses its meaning. Parting ways isn't meant to ruin our lives, but it came to awaken us from the delusion that everything would remain the same. The Buddha said that death is the most powerful teacher, one that speaks nothing but teaches the harshest lessons. For today and for those who are still by our side, many people say that you won't understand until you've experienced pain, because pain softens the heart, and when the heart is softened, wisdom finds its place. Parting teaches us that we cannot control anyone's life, not even our own. What we can do is take care of our hearts as everything changes. When we accept parting without resistance, our hearts gradually calm down. Even though there are tears, there is no blaming of fate. Awakening doesn't mean not feeling sorrow, but rather not dwelling on that sorrow. The Buddha taught us to use death as a reminder, not to be afraid, but to avoid being complacent in life. Knowing that everyone will one day pass away, we will begin to love more gently, speak kindly to each other, and forgive each other more. Therefore, parting is not the end, but it is the beginning of a true understanding of life. It teaches us to return to the present, not to procrastinate, not to live aimlessly, and when our minds awaken, we begin to ask deeper questions. If everything is uncertain, how should we live so that we won't regret it on our last day? Point 8. Living in the present moment is life's greatest gift. Have you ever experienced your body being here, but your mind wandering to the past or even racing towards the future, forgetting that the most precious moment is unfolding right before your eyes? The Buddha taught that the past is gone and the future has not yet arrived. It tends to dwell on things that cannot be changed and worry about things that haven't happened yet. Parting makes us realize that every moment could be the last, and once we understand this, we begin to value the present. Living in the present doesn't mean not thinking about the past or not planning for the future, but rather not letting your mind be dragged down to the point where you forget to live. The Buddha taught mindfulness practice through breathing because breathing is the only thing that is always with us. When your mind wanders, return to awareness of your breath. No need to fix anything. Just knowing when to enter and when to exit will gradually calm your mind. In that state of peace, we begin to see that most of our suffering is not in the present moment but in our own thoughts. The path to the present moment is simple, but thoughts make it heavy. When we live in the present, we won't blame ourselves for the past. And don't worry about what hasn't happened yet. We will start to eat with appreciation, listen attentively, and look at the world with gentleness. Small things will regain their meaning once again. The Buddha said that those who are mindful do not grieve excessively, not because they do not love, but because their minds are not captivated by the images in their heads. Living in the present moment lets us know that we are still alive, that we have today, and that we still have the opportunity to do good. When the mind is free from fear, it will gradually subside because fear often arises from a future that has not yet occurred. Living in the present moment means reclaiming yourself from the delusion of your thoughts. And when our minds are in the present moment, we begin to see a deeper truth. That although everyone must pass away, every breath is a gift. Gifts that don't last forever should be used with appreciation. Living in the present doesn't mean not preparing for parting. Point 9. Always be prepared so you won't suffer when the day comes to leave. Have you ever? I used to think that if we prepared ourselves in advance for the day someone left, we could cope more easily. But I'm afraid we might become too cold or feel like we've just accepted the departure. The Buddha taught us about preparing our minds, not to harden our hearts, but to calm the mind and prepare to accept the realities of life. It's not about predicting the future, but about realizing that everything arises and then ceases to exist, and that everyone will one day leave us. When we prepare ourselves, we won't be overly shocked, won't feel lost, and won't dwell on the pain for too long. Often, suffering arises from our carelessness. We never consider who might be reading this before us. We are shocked and deeply hurt. But if we train our minds to understand that separation is a natural part of life, our hearts will gradually accept it. Preparing ourselves doesn't mean we will love less or cut off the relationship easily. But it means we love consciously. Don't cling to things until you get hurt badly. The Buddha said that those who understand the Dharma do not suffer from change because they know that temporary existence is not wrong and departure is not something to be feared. Preparing the mind means learning that we cannot control others to love us forever, but we can control our own hearts. When we learn to prepare ourselves, love becomes more meaningful. We give willingly without fear of in vain. We will have plenty of time to say kind words. Show sincerity and do what needs to be done now, instead of waiting until it's too late. Preparing your mind is like packing your bags before a long journey. We cannot stop the storm or make the path smooth, but we can prepare ourselves for any situation. The Buddha taught us to detach ourselves from worldly things, but this doesn't mean having an empty mind. A prepared mind is one that is both gentle and strong at the same time. When that day comes, we won't cry from exhaustion because of grief, but we will cry from understanding. By letting go and with non-dominant love, this is wise love. A love that doesn't harm oneself and doesn't harm others. Preparing ourselves helps us view partings as a natural part of life and prevents them from becoming unnecessarily painful. Even when everyone is gone one day, we will still have a peaceful heart and growing wisdom. And you can continue to love without fear of loss. Rule number 10. Give love without attachment. It is the ultimate understanding. Have you ever loved someone so much that you forgot about yourself? Have you ever been afraid that if you stopped clinging to them, they wouldn't love you anymore? I used to think that clinging was the only tool to keep a relationship going. But the Buddha taught clearly that true love does not require attachment. Attachment is desire, fear of loss, and the attempt to control others with one's own mind. This not only brings suffering but also diminishes the purity of love. But loving without attachment is giving without expecting anything in return. It is caring willingly. Even on the day we entered into it, we weren't overly distressed because we understood the nature of relationships. Many people mistakenly believe that if you're not attached, it means you're not bound, but in reality, loving without attachment is a stronger bond because it's not driven by fear, but by compassion and wisdom. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, attachment is suffering, but giving without attachment is happiness. When we understand this, we will love without expectations, we will care without coercion, we will be together willingly and part peacefully. Giving love without attachment makes relationships a learning process, not a struggle. Every relationship is a teacher that helps us understand ourselves and the nature of life. Sometimes the people we love can hurt us or leave us unexpectedly. If we cling to them, the pain will multiply, but if we understand, it still hurts. But it's not destructive because the heart knows that everything has passed away. This is the ultimate understanding. Giving without expectation, loving without harming, having a peaceful heart even on the day of loss. The Buddha said that letting go is not neglect, but it is about loving with true understanding. And when we truly love, we won't grieve excessively. We won't be overly angry, and we won't be consumed by sorrow even when someone leaves. This is a gift of Dharma that strengthens the heart and enables one to continue loving without fear of loss. In this kind of love, we don't need to try to change anyone or hold anyone back, but we can truly give them happiness and warmth, and even when they are gone one day. Thank you for all the moments we shared and for the lessons our hearts learned. This understanding comes from learning the Dharma of departure, impermanence, and placing trust in the right way. Life is a journey full of encounters and departures. No one stays with us forever, whether parents, spouses, friends, or even pets. Everything and everyone changes and is impermanent. The Buddha taught us to realize that most suffering arises from attachment, expectations, and misunderstanding. The natural order of life is that when we understand that no one will be with us forever, we begin to appreciate the present and start training our minds to cope with change. Loss is not something to fear if our minds are prepared and mindful. We can cope with pain calmly and not let suffering destroy our lives. The only thing that always stays with us is our own mind. A mind that knows the Dharma, practices mindfulness, cultivates compassion, and understands the truth of life. Life will not be consumed by suffering, nor will it cling to impermanent things. One will be able to love without possessiveness, and will not suffer even on the day of loss. Pain is not an enemy, but a teacher that helps us understand the impermanent nature of things. Loss is a lesson that teaches us the value of the present. Letting go is not about not loving, but about loving truly, loving without attachment, loving without harming oneself, and loving without expecting anything in return. Living in the present moment is the greatest gift because the present instant is the only time we can truly experience. When our mind is focused on the present, distracting thoughts and anxieties about the past and future subside. We clearly see the small beauties around us and begin to live willingly, not letting fear or loss dictate our actions. Being prepared always helps us cope with change without panicking or being overwhelmed by suffering. Suffering can be prolonged unnecessarily, and inner peace can be maintained even after the passing of loved ones. Ultimately, giving love without attachment is the ultimate understanding. It is loving consciously, loving compassionately, and loving without harming anyone, even when they are gone. We can still love and be grateful for all the lessons life gives us. All these important lessons will help keep our hearts calm and strong, enabling us to face all changes with stability, even though no one will be with us forever. We don't feel abandoned because we have a heart that understands the Dharma as our own refuge. And we can love and bring happiness to ourselves and others throughout our lives. Please follow this Dharma channel for more lessons to cultivate a calm mind and understand life.